Hey guys, just want to do a video here. So these are the ATTKTX Pneumatics and the titanium cocking rod. Just want to do a video that kind of shows the differences between these and ShockTech Pneumatics. This was a collaboration. These four pieces here were a collaboration with ShockTech and ATTKTX to get those made, and just kind of want to show like the differences between the two and what makes these different. Just taking these out of the box and kind of fumbling them a little bit. These are really nice. The ATTKTX stuff is really nice, but I want to compare that here. So what we'll do is we'll start with the timing rod, and I just want to compare this. Like I said, here, maybe I'll leave these in the background. So this is their timing rod. Gant's done a great job kind of explaining what makes theirs a little bit different, but some of the subtle features that people don't necessarily see. Hopefully that'll focus. There we go. One of the things is when you actually thread in a cocking rod, some of the older cocking rods, like the WGP rods or some of the aftermarket rods, don't necessarily have this lead-in chamfer here. So you see this has a nice lead-in chamfer. It has a nice flat bottom, which is actually really nice. So when that seats all the way in the bottom of the hole, it can sit against a set screw, similar to the ShockTech ones. So the ShockTech right here. So this is a brand new ShockTech cocking rod. This one does not have a machined, let's see if I can get it there. So this does not have a machined end, which is fine, but this is driven into a nylon set screw. And this does have a machined end, nice, flat, square, which is, this is a really nice piece. It has that lead-in chamfer. The ShockTech has a start, but it doesn't have the lead-in chamfer. It has a relief here that's cut on the back side of the threads. I think they did that because this started out as a larger diameter compared to the ShockTech. ShockTech uses, I think this is like 3/16 or something, uses that style rod, and then they're probably rolled threads, where these are probably machine threads, which is nice because it's titanium. Then it has a nice chamfer, and it necks down, where this is a larger diameter, similar to most cocking rods. And then it has this cross hole to make it so that you can remove it without using tools, or without using pliers or vice grips or something that most people have used in the past, hopefully no longer use. The other thing I want to point out is this bumper. So the ShockTech bumper can move. The ShockTech bumper, that the material that they use is actually really nice, and it doesn't move in comparison to some of the other. The ATTKTX is seated in the back of the cocking rod knob. So if you look real close, there's actually a lip in there, and then you'll see that there's also a nice heavy chamfer for this thread to start into. That's really nice. This is the actual bumper. So the bumper has a ledge, and then you basically just shove it in, and that ledge holds it into the that actual knob. So you just shove that in there, and that seats it so it doesn't actually turn. And I wanted to look at this too. This has a nice flat machine finish. That was the door. This has a nice flat machine finish with that same chamfer. So that's really nice. And that threads in because that chamfer is there. Nice and easy. And And then in the back side, it has the locking screw. So when you actually seat this, you put a tool through here, set the knob where you want it, and then you can tighten the screw and use this to get the torque without having to do anything against the knob. So lengthwise, looks like they, let's see, there we go. Lengthwise, it looks like they were shooting for pretty close to the ShockTech length. If you look at some other cocking rods, don't know that I have got an A&S rod here. So if you look at the A&S rod, this is a lot shorter. I personally like a longer cocking rod similar to the ShockTech. So it looks like this could probably be backed off and set. Yeah. Looks like this could be backed off and set to about where the ShockTech one is, which is nice. So yeah, I mean, that's the cocking rod there. But this thing is actually really nice. I like this. I haven't used any of these yet. These are just kind of like first impressions, I guess, if you will. So the next one I want to talk about is RAM. So what you'll notice is the actual outside diameter of the body on the ATTKTX is larger. Now that's intended for them to be able to get the actual twister milling in, but otherwise it uses the same ram shaft in both, uses the same ram back, uses the same fittings in both. One thing I will note that this barb is Loctited in place. When you go to install this, you're probably going to want to remove this. So with the ShockTech, you'll see that it's loose, and then they intend for you to Loctite it. But once you thread this into, I'm going to grab actually I got a twister front block here. This one is from F5. So what you'll do is you'll thread this in. Of course, nice. Probably cheese that. But once you'll thread that in, what you want to do is you take your pump arm and put your pump arm here, and then you use an Allen key to actually drive this into pump arm so that you can set your back block length. This one is a little snug. There we go. So what you'll see is in the end of that, it's broached. I think this is 3/30 seconds, I think. So if you do 3/30 seconds Allen key through the ram front, then you can drive that into the pump arm, and then you can set your back block gap if you want a gap. I know that Danny Love doesn't set a gap, but I personally do. So when you go to install your ATTKTX one, my guess is Gant Loctited these in place so that people could screw them on their markers and go. I really recommend removing this. I removed the Loctite and everything from mine already, and then you can install it that way and Loctite it in place. So, but the way they're shipping, you should be able to use it, pretty easily. The one thing I did note is the actual O-ring. So the O-ring, looks like ShockTech has moved to Buna O-ring on the piston. Yep, they moved to Buna on both pistons. So both the ATTKTX and the ShockTech one. They were previously urethane, so just kind of wanted to note that. Let's see what else. I mean, I think that's it, like feature-wise. It's basically just a ShockTech ram. So these are nice. Did not check the stroke length, but I imagine the stroke length is the same. Ugh. A lot of lube in there. Yep, so stroke length is the same. Okay, so that's the RAM. Let's talk about the LPC. So this is actually really nice. Again, larger for the actual milling. So here we go. Here's a shock tag, and then the ATTKTX. You can see kind of the difference in length. Looks like the ATTKTX also has a chamfer on the banjo bolt itself. So this chamfer here, that's kind of nice. And then the porting is different. So the porting on the ATTKTX is larger than the shock deck. Let's see. Let's look at inside. So inside is different. So shock deck actually has the threads that protrude. Then ATTKTX has the brooch that is inside with the threaded section here. So you can remove this plug and thread this plug in, and the plug will actually sit flush if you wanted to. Let me remove that. So there you go. The ATTKTX banjo is actually really nice too. And then if you want to remove the plug, just unthread it. And then it's the same Allen key for the banjo, should you want to remove that. And then this plug will shot down there. So you can see, I'm pretty sure this is the same Allen key. Yep. Same Allen key for the LPC chamber, and then same Allen key for the plug, which I think is actually really nice. So, and then on the shock tech, this is a 1032 thread, and then this is the same as the ram shaft. So if you somehow mess that up, but there you go. I mean, those are pretty similar, almost identical, I'd say, on the back side. I'm just looking at the inside diameter to see if the inside diameter looks different. Let's see if we can measure that. So that looks to be 439, 432. So pretty similar. Wouldn't imagine that's a whole lot there, but wonder if they did that to add some wall thickness through the inside through this section. But yeah, so that's the difference in the volumizers, or the LPCs, low pressure chambers. The next, we can talk about the three-way. So let me open this here. So, there we go, three ways. So lengthwise looks about the same. Still has the shoulder on the back. I really like this shoulder. I don't like having a three-way that does not have a shoulder and will thread in further than what is needed. I typically Loctite my three-ways in place anyway, but having that shoulder and then actually using an O-ring to, one, keep pain out of this section, but two, also help provide the tension required for the Loctite is a big deal. So on the shock tech, it looks like it has a larger relief here for the three-way than on the ATTKTX, but I think a lot of that had to do with the milling. Looks like the actual vent hole locations are different. So it looks like the vent hole is straight up and down. And then at 90, That's kind of cool. Same barbs. Looks like the same hole pattern for the vent relief, but it's just rotated 90 degrees. I kind of like this, call it bullet shape here, where it's like the large chamfer at the front. That's kind of cool. And then I like how they broke up this section too. As far as fit, so one thing I noticed is these are using Buna O-rings, and then ShockTech is using whatever their proprietary O-rings are. So I'm not sure what the fit is, the fit looks like, but the actual three-way shafts look to be the same. So we're going to check this out. Yeah, they both have the dual band milling here. So one thing I wanted to check was how this actually fit in the ATTKTX. So this seems pretty snug. I didn't put any lube on this. Let's put some oil on this. So these O-rings are typically tighter than 003s. The ShockTech three-ways use 003s, but they are a different material and a different durometer, I believe. So this is a little snug, but this Buna is pretty loose. So if I shake it, it falls out. Now I wonder if that was a fit test, like whether this fit was requested to be a different size than, say, this shaft, and they didn't mark these differently. So I'll measure that off camera and probably post in the comments or something. Measure the O-ring gland or the O-ring grooves and see if that's different. But I wonder if the material itself is just different, because the fit, you can tell itself is much tighter. So that's interesting. That's about the only thing that I've noticed, like, or one of the things I've noticed, like, performance-wise, that has been different. So this feels snug, but it doesn't feel tight. This one feels, let's say, more snug. So if I don't know, if I was pulling on that, it would probably feel pretty tight. But I'm curious to actually try this with this fit and see if there's any issues. If there is, I'm sure it's just, even if I had to, I'd just swap the shaft itself, because the shaft seems to work, but I'm curious to see how the fitment is with the actual test. All right, so we're down to the last part here. So this is the ShockTech LPR, the ATTKTX LPR. So the outside diameter looks to be a little bit bigger. A little bit bigger. The knobs are different. So the ATTKTX knob screws in from the front. Let me see if I can back this off here. And then it has a captured wave spring, which is actually kind of cool. It just slips over the front, or the diameter of the knob and the diameter of the piston. So you can just pull them off. Boop. And then it has an O-ring that actually slides in the knob body. So this is just to keep it centered. It doesn't actually do a suction. And then it has a vent hole here. So this is one of the things I recommended to Gant. So this has a vent hole to make sure that it doesn't actually cause any suction or weirdness. Let's see what else. I think these are all vent holes for the knob. Yeah, this thing is pretty cool. They did a really good job, like, machining these. So in here, hopefully you can see down there. So that is the Schrader valve. So that is what actually does it's like the cup seal or the reg seat. So these are pretty cool. And it does look like they have like a depression here to allow the actual barbs to thread in and not rub. So sometimes you'll find like older shock decks where somebody puts a hex on here or like a socket or whatever, and then they rub trying to get this barb on, but it looks like they kind of created a depression so the barb doesn't sit flush like the shock neck. So that's kind of nice. And then the same rear section here. It's nice that it actually comes out the front. That's one of the things I hate. I don't want to say hate. I dislike about the shock deck LPRs is that when you go to lube the piston, there's a two O-ring piston here, and when you go to lube the piston, you actually have to remove the barb, unthread the front section, and then re-Loctite this back in place, all to just lube or change these two O-rings. Then with the ATTKTX LPR, you just thread it out the front, which is actually really nice. This O-ring up here, this O-ring here on the knob, provides tension to keep the knob from spinning, which is kind of nice. On the shock deck LPR, they have the nylon set screw. That's what provides tension on the actual knob. Interesting. I wonder what size this hole is. Is it 3/32? Oop. Closer to 7/64. So if you had it stuck on there, so sometimes when you have knobs like this that actually have the O-ring for the tensioner, they'll get tight, and so it's hard to do by hand. So it's nice that they actually have a cross hole that you can stick an Allen key in to get leverage to turn that. So that's nice. But yeah, so there we go. I got all these ATTKTX parts in the mail today, and wanted to kind of show them off and look through them and see the things that I'm looking for versus some of the other, I don't even want to say competitors because it was a collaboration with ShockTech, but it just kind of shows you some of the features that other people are looking for, and kind of highlight some of the perks of their system. I really like it. Really like some of the stuff that they incorporated. I really like the actual cocking rod here. That's kind of cool. I'm wondering lengthwise where this will fall with some of the builds that I actually do. I like setting my cocking rod longer than probably most people, but that's something that I do. So I like that they incorporated some features and that they took some time to think of how to improve things for the cocker world. So some creature comforts there, but yeah, just kind of want to show it off. And here, let me see if I can get the ShockTech stuff in. So LPR 3-way RAM LPC. Here we go. There we go. So let me know what your thoughts are, if you ended up picking up these, or if you're planning to pick some up in the future, or I don't even know if ATTKTX still has these in stock. But these are pretty cool. Hopefully they can do a set that's not twister milled, and that guys can use them on some other stuff. So, but yeah, let me know what you think.